Welcome here and thanks for joining us on a CKPG News special meeting your Prince George City Council candidates. We have a lot to get to, so let's hear from them.
Thanks so much for making some time for us today, James. I appreciate it. Tell me a little bit about first who you are and why you're running for Prince George City Council.
Yeah, thanks for having me on here, Caden. I was born and raised in Prince George. I went to elementary school here, high school. I lived in Vancouver for a while, and I looked all over the place on where to move from there, and I just couldn't find a better place than Prince George. I just love this community. I love the people here. I love the town. I love the forests around it. And, you know, the way the city's developing, I think the way the province, our whole country is going, we've got a lot of major issues to look at, and I guess I just see myself trying to help out in that direction here on City Council. And you know, we're just losing a lot of jobs overseas. We're losing manufacturing jobs. We're having a homelessness crisis. Housing is getting expensive. Just a lot of problems, and I think we got to stop the bleeding and kind of work on developing a strong economy that's self-sufficient and sustainable.
Yeah, I know you're very involved in the forest economy here locally and the community there, but James, if you were to pick one of the key issues here facing Prince George, I know there's many to pick from, but pick one, and how would you work to solve that as a city councilor?
I think one of the big issues is the protection of green space and how the city is going to develop. We're sort of at a crossroads, I see, with development. And I think the choice we need to make as a city is, are we going to kind of further expand outwards, or do we focus on the existing urban footprint? And this all ties together with homelessness and the problems and issues we have downtown. And I think we need to take a holistic approach and look at how we can solve that problem and the problem of losing green space and the sort of expensive development that at the end of the day is going to cost the city a lot of financial resources to service. We're talking about running, a 4-lane road through the most popular park in Prince George, which is Ginter's Green. I think that's one of the things that we need a voice on City Council to address. I don't think that's the direction we should be moving as a city. We need to be, questioning whether or not we need to spend $20 million on stormwater upgrades to service this huge amount of development that we're projecting for the University Heights neighborhood plan. And, if we go forward with that kind of development, is that going to take away from looking at downtown and solving the problems downtown? So, yeah, I think we need to look at saving green space and making downtown a desirable and attractive place to live, and making sure people have homes, and getting people off the street. And it's something that we can solve. I think we got to work with other levels of government, but I'm pretty optimistic that we can move forward on that kind of stuff.
And I know you're very involved in the city in various ways. What do you see as a future vision, though, for Prince George, and how do you plan to help it get there if you're a successful candidate? I
think there's huge problems that are way beyond City Council, but I think we can talk about these things and acknowledge that we have these problems. So twice in the last 2 years we had empty shelves in our grocery stores. You weren't able to buy milk. And this is kind of a problem that we never had in Prince George before. We used to have dairies here locally. We used to have milk production. We used to bottle our milk here in town. Now we bottle that milk in Abbotsford. We've got tremendous agricultural opportunity here in this region. We're a phenomenal agricultural region, and our processing facilities are hundreds of kilometers away. So actually, when the roads went out, we were actually dumping milk down the drain from northern dairies because we couldn't transport that milk to Abbotsford, where it then gets transported back to us. So these are huge problems. I think we got to look at local food self-sufficiency. We're incredibly vulnerable to the global economy. Climate change is going to impact that global economy that we're tied very closely into. And I think we got to start looking right back at home here and thinking how we can solve these problems locally and with our own resources.
Thanks so much for making the time for us today, John, to chat. Explain to me a little bit about who you are, and for our audience as well, who you are and why you're running for Prince George City Council.
My name is John Sikowski. I announced my candidacy back in February of this year. I'm a representative of the Downtown Prince George Business Advocacy Group, 65 independent small mom and pop operations that were fed up with the way things are going downtown, with the crime, the vandalism, the homeless population. So that's when I threw my hat in the ring and decided to run for council. Can't change it from the outside, do it from the inside.
I get a sense maybe of what your top issue might be, John. But what is your top issue or one of the issues you see facing Prince George, and how would you work to solve that as a city councillor?
What our top issue is the lack of action. We've had committees, we've had groups, we've got criminal issues going on downtown, council meetings galore, money spent with no results. What we need to do is get 9 people, mayor and council, in a room, close the door and work the issues. No committees, no special research. We've got to sit down and discuss openly what needs to be done to improve the outcome for our downtown.
I know you've lived in the city for quite some time, set up shop downtown as well. Where do you see Prince George going as far as a future vision for the city goes, and how do you plan to get it there?
The opportunity for Prince George is limitless, literally limitless. What it needs guidance and the willingness to sit down and listen to ideas and chase them. I think that's what we need to do. We need to have open discussion.
Thanks for joining us today, Chris. First of all, tell me a little bit about who you are and why you're running for City Council.
Okay, will do. Hello, Prince George. My name's Chris Stern. I've been in Prince George for most of my life. Raised out of city limits, but worked for the city of Prince George for 25 years, close to it. I worked in every department of City Hall. I've worked in City Hall, building inspector, been a carpenter, worked in utility operations as a foreman. I've worked in streets. I know how the system works. I am married with 3 kids and a beautiful wife. We live on a farm just out city limits and raise golden retrievers and have a Christmas tree farm. And yeah, that's my life essentially around Prince George.
And why are you running?
Running, I want to make Prince George a better place. Working for Prince George for the last 25 years, I've seen lots of stuff that is not done proper. With upper management, we had to do stuff, but we couldn't say stuff. There's a lot of corners. There is some managers that need to be let go. Most of the staff are really good. They do good work. We have some overlapping areas. We need to streamline things. But the main thing, I want to make Prince George a better place to live. And that includes, you know, housing, the downtown issues, all that stuff together. But essentially, make Prince George a better place for people to move to.
And if you were to pick one of the issues, Chris, facing Prince George right now, what would it be and how would you solve it?
Well, one of the biggest issues is our downtown environment. As a city councillor and the city laws, there's nothing we can do, people. You know, as much as we're trying, I would love to see the city hire a health nurse to travel with the bylaw services. And with that, have the connections where we can move these people into treatment, mental health, stuff like that. So downtown issue is one of the biggest, but there's not much we can do.
Definitely a common one for all the candidates. When you're looking at Prince George, like you said, you've lived here for quite some time. Future vision though, what do you see this city as and where do you see it going? What is your future vision for Prince George?
Future vision, I want people from the Lower Mainland, all these other places to come to Prince George. We have everything. You know, we have the university, we have the college. Let's make this, again, central Prince George is the northern capital. Let's get more people moving in. Our growth as a city has been somewhat stagnant. A lot of apartments and stuff going in, but not small home starter homes, stuff like that. Let's grow the city. Let's get these young people in that are going to stay here for years and years.
My name is Wesley Mitchell. I am with Suatin, Sayu Beaver Clan, also Dutch from the Netherlands. Originally from Smithers, BC, born in '77 there. Moved to Prince George in 1986, and I love Prince George, and I'm going to continue to live probably the remainder of my life here.
And why are you running for City Council, Wes?
Well, definitely I want to be part. I want to obtain a seat in City Council to bring the voice, and I've said it before, of the people, for the people. And definitely want to bring my past life experiences and the knowledge that I have to the table, right? So that can include anything from Indigenous backgrounds to my Dutch heritage, and bringing in a quality voice for everybody to use as a vessel to bring to the seat of City Hall.
I know you've being involved in the community in so many ways. You know the complex issues that face it. If you were to pick one of the issues facing Prince George, what would it be, and how would you work to solve that if you were a successful candidate?
One of the issues definitely would be, and it kind of transpires into our downtown core, right? Like we want to have our families down there. They can walk with their kids and feel safe, and that transpires into our businesses having a healthy environment for them to flourish, and so we can continue to evolve as a community, as well as our unsheltered people that are down there, whether it be that, you know, they're involved with crime, with addictions, or just mental health and awareness, to be able to bring them comfort and love, and hopefully obtain a spot within Prince George jurisdictions to give them the treatment they need.
And yeah, you're involved in the community in so many ways. I know you have a future in mind for it as well. Where do you see Prince George going, and how do you plan to get it there?
Well, being the center of, or the capital of Prince George, I see it flourishing, but nothing bigger. Like our development, our economic development is there. It's got that ability to continue to evolve. We just need to, you know, help the people that need the support and help, and that goes from our businesses, that goes from our union everyday workers, and it goes to our Indigenous relations, right? So to be able to be part of all those and put those three legs together, we'd be a powerhouse, and we're going to evolve into a very beautiful community.
Thanks for meeting us, making some time for us this morning, Kyle. First question for you, a little bit about who you are and why you're running for council.
I'm Kyle Sampson. I've lived in Prince George since 2002. I've served our community on council. I've had that honor since 2018 when I was elected for the first time, and I'm seeking re-election because I think there's more work to be done. I'm looking to bring that stability to council, bring that common sense approach, and I think I can help solve some of the problems that we have, that our city's facing. And I want to bring prosperity to our community.
You talk about some of the problems facing the community. If you were to pick out one of those problems, it might be hard to do, but if you're a successful candidate, what do you hope to address and why?
I think my next term on council, if I'm successful, I want to focus on both sides of what we've got going on. We have an opportunity to grow and prosper as a city, so we can't forget about that. We can't focus on just the issues we're facing. We have to figure out how to grow. And there's some real opportunity there. And then we have to figure out the issues. And there's a no-brainer. We have issues in our downtown with crime. We have issues in our downtown with homelessness. And those issues expand throughout the entire community. We have issues with development, streamlined processes to make sure development's happening in an efficient and really informed way. And we have to just look at all those little kind of, everyone's got their own thing. So how do we take that information, bring it together, and build a city that we're all proud of?
Talk about development, building the city that you're proud of. What is your future vision for Prince George?
You know, a long-term vision is something that I'm talking about in my campaign, and you know, it's no doubt I'm a young individual, a young professional in our community. I'm 30 years old, and I want to see Prince George that I can live in and be proud of for years and generations to come. And so it's starting to look at, you know, what are our plans for infrastructure? Are we reinvesting in it? Are we just surprised every time something comes up and it's suddenly at its end of life? No, you know, we can track that. We can plan for that. We can plan how we're going to fund those things. We can start looking ahead at what kind of infrastructure is suitable now and what do we need as we grow as a community, and really have that planned growth rather than always only reacting. And so for me, looking at long-term vision is really important. I think it's important to young people, and I think that we can provide reassurance to folks who are maybe getting on, some of our seniors, that things are in hand, that we're taking care of the needs of today, but we're also looking ahead to the future, and we're not, you know, wasting money.
So my name's Tim Bennett. I have grown up and spent most of my life here in Prince George, a father of 4 and a really proud product of Prince George. For the last 11 years, I've had the opportunity to represent the district and the region as a school trustee, serving as vice chair for almost 5 years and then board chair for 4. In addition, by day, I'm the executive director with Big Brothers Big Sisters of Northern BC, where I've had the opportunity to work for the last 16 years. You know, as I head into the summer, it was really you know, a lot of soul searching about where I could best serve the community. And it was a really bittersweet decision for me because I am such a strong, passionate advocate for public education. But as I look at our community and the opportunities that are ahead, I felt that now was a time to give back and serve the community, hopefully in a new capacity, and that is to represent young professionals, parents, families, and the community at large on City Council.
I know that you know as well, there's many issues facing Prince George, but if you were to select one of those, Tim, what would it be and how would you work to solve them?
Yeah, so I mean, there are a lot of complex issues facing our community right now, whether it is the housing challenge, how do we support our most vulnerable living in the downtown core, how do we deal with affordability. Those are all big issues that are going to be facing our city over the next 4 years. One of the things that I feel that is also an issue for our city is really around vision. Over the last 4 years, the city has forced to make a lot of really reactive decisions. We're trying to figure out how do we respond to the situations at hand, meaning that we're not finding ways to proactively address these situations. So it's going to be important for the next council to not only look at how are we meeting needs today, but let's set the city up for success down the road. Both through my time as a trustee, running a local nonprofit, I'm really been focused on being proactive and how do we continue to advocate for our community. And that's the lens that I'm going to bring to the council table, is not only looking at how do we make the best decisions for tomorrow, but how do we make the best decisions for the next 5 and 10 years down the road.
Tim, I know you're a family man as well, so future planning is important. But if you were to pick a future vision, build on that. What do you see for Prince George? Where do you see the city going and how?
So I think one of the things that we really need to look at as a community is how we're going to continue to grow. We as a community have such opportunities ahead of us. We need to continue to look at how we are going to address the housing. We know that we're going to need 10,000 houses in our community over the next few years. And as we continue to grow the number of houses we need, how do we make sure we have schools for those families? How do we make sure we have childcare options? And how do we make sure we have the amenities that are going to attract and retain people in our community? If we are going to continue to grow sustainably and in turn grow our tax base, we need to ensure that we have those amenities in place that are going to bring people to our community and then keep them in the long term. So part of that retention strategy as well is how are we going to continue to grow housing and recreational opportunities for seniors? How are we going to ensure that we are continuing to work with our educational partners to bring new students to Prince George who then are going to fall in love with the community and decide to stay here and raise their family? So I think really it is going to be around growth. It's going to be working together to help build a stronger Prince George for everyone.
My name's Ron Polillo, and I think there are a lot of people out there know me. But for the people that don't know me, I'm a dad of 2 beautiful girls, Sophia and Lauren, 20 and 18. I'm a current sitting trustee, vice chair, SD 57, and a long-time community advocate and leader and supporter in Prince George. And why I'm running, because I feel, and what I'm hearing from people, is we need a change. And I think that I represent positive change. Not change for the sake of change, but change that is positive moving forward. We do have some significant challenges ahead of us, but I think with the right leadership and the right plan and resources, I think Prince George has a massive potential, and I want to be a part of that, leading the city through that potential and where we can go.
I know your campaign's been very focused on positive change, Ron. Yeah. If you were to pick one of the issues facing Prince George, pick one, and how would you work to solve that as a successful candidate?
Well, I think the biggest issue, and it's no secret, I'm hearing it from people that I talk to and people that are reaching out to me, is the downtown social issues that we have. It is a very complex, difficult issue to work through, but I believe that we can really make inroad, but it's going to take a comprehensive plan and long-term focus and dedication and resources and consultation. And we need collaboration from all levels of government. We need help from organizations like Northern Health. We need help from community organizations, and we need all to sit down and really discuss this and come up with a really comprehensive plan with some goals. Because a plan is only as good as the goals, and reassess those goals. And if we need to make changes, make changes. But no one has that magic answer that's going to solve things. It's going to take time, it's going to take money, it's going to take consultation, and a lot of work to really make an impact on that. But I do believe that we can have a safe, inclusive, thriving, healthy, vibrant downtown.
Your future vision for the city, Ron, I know you've lived here, been serving as a trustee for quite some time. Where do you see Prince George going, and how do you see it, how do you plan to see it get there?
Well, I have a massive hope for the city of Prince George, and living here for almost 30 years. And I've decided to stay here and raise my family and have a career here because it's safe, it's fun, it's affordable, and it's a great place to live, work, and play. So that's where I see us really marketing. And I think one of my other main campaign goals is we have to define of who we are. And this rebranding exercise that the city has just started, I want to be a really big part of that, of really defining who we are and how we're going to market ourselves to the rest of the world. And I think if we do that effectively and with the attributes that Prince George has, I think we have massive potential culturally, economically, and really be that hub, that true hub of northern British Columbia, and I just want to be a part of it. So I am very excited about that, and I'm looking forward to helping lead the team to do that.
Thanks so much for making the time to talk to us today, Cameron. Talk to me a little bit about who you are and why you're running for City Council for our audience.
Hi, I'm Cameron Stoltz. I'm running for City Council. I've been a long-time resident of the city of Prince George, grew up here in town, graduated from here, started my small business here, and now 32 years later, Great Whites up in Spruceland Mall, the #1 toy store in town to go to for your toy selections. I also co-own a commercial and industrial painting company that I have with a partner, and when I look at my experience here in the community, it's really been involved with family. My wife and I have 7 kids between us, and we're very proud of Prince George and very proud to be living here.
If you were to pick one of the issues facing Prince George, Cameron, what would it be, and how would you work to solve it as a city councillor?
So I think the challenge right now is that we don't have one single problem in the city, but the city is facing several problems. We have an infrastructure problem with how we're dealing with and addressing our infrastructure. We're paying for expensive Band-Aids on buildings that are long past their end of life instead of replacing them in a timely fashion. Other challenges we're facing right now is for our businesses. We have a shortage of workers in our community. There isn't a business in town, whether it's Northern Health, manufacturing, plumbers, entry-level retail. We're all looking for employees. And from my perspective, the city should be being more aggressive with its Move Up Prince George program. We should be targeting all across Canada to get workers attracted to Prince George and partnering with Tourism Prince George so that when they're out selling Prince George as a great place to visit, they're also partnering with the city and saying it's a great place to move to. We have challenges with our affordable and available housing right now. If you're trying to find a place to live, it's an apartment building or a basement suite, there's very little availability. So we need to change how we address our housing in this community.
Where do you see as a future for Prince George, Cameron? Where do you see it going, the city, and how do you plan to get it there?
I think for the future of the city of Prince George, the 2 issues we need to address right now is one, our aging infrastructure. We need to come up with a comprehensive plan that replaces them before we're spending money on expensive repairs. The other issue that I see we're needing to address is, again, the downtown core issue that's now perforated throughout our entire community. We need to be able to find a way to help those people with a hand up instead of a hand out. We need to get them off the street and into treatment. Our community has no treatment for youth that have been addicted or for women that are addicted. How do we help those people if there's nowhere for them to go to be able to help them get off the street? We need to start with recovery first. Going back to infrastructure, when we're looking at our infrastructure, we've allowed our buildings to get to the point where they are beyond the state of repair, but we're still spending huge sums of money repairing and putting huge Band-Aids over them instead of actually addressing the issue of just replacing the buildings. We need to be being more proactive in how we maintain our infrastructure.
Thanks so much for making some time for us today, Karen. Tell me a little bit about who you are and why you're running for City Council.
Thanks, Caden. I'm Karen Muir. I'm a designated accountant and single mom in Prince George, and I've been here for the majority of the last, I think it's about 13 years, working in accounting and volunteering. I'm currently the treasurer for Big Brothers Big Sisters, and love to lend my time to organizations, especially for kids. And I work in the forest industry as a controller right now, so yeah.
And why are you running for city council?
Why am I running for city council? Right. I think being a single mom and a designated accountant has given me a unique perspective that isn't currently represented, including financial management and issues that are facing young people and young families. So I think it's important to step up and participate in the community.
You talked about financial management there, but if you were to pick one of the issues facing our community, Karen, what would it be and how would you work to solve it if you were a successful candidate?
Oh man, yeah, there's so many on the table. I think one of the biggest things that sums it up for me is our community is missing some vibrancy. And I think that that comes out in housing, affordable housing for everybody from the unhoused to families to seniors, everybody in between. I think that's community recreation and outdoor and indoor, organized and not organized opportunities. And I think that it's economic opportunity for businesses, for people working in those businesses, and the economic activity that supports all the other activities in the city. And I mean now, okay, how am I going to solve those? I think that just taking opportunities, I think that's a big thing that we've missed in recent years, putting housing where it makes sense and putting some thought into where we're putting that housing, getting housing built. I think that prioritizing opportunities for recreation and looking at what young families really need. And I think that, of course, economic opportunities, there's a whole bunch on the table that our city could take advantage of, given our geographic location and services that already exist in the city.
And you got a lot in there about the future of the city as well. If you were to picture a future of Prince George for you, what does it look like and why?
Oh, I would love to see a Prince George where we have a busy, exciting downtown with events and that it's safe to go to. I would love to see a city where we don't have people dying on the streets, that we have the correct supports for vulnerable and struggling people. And I think that also in turn benefits business owners and such downtown. I'd love to see a city where we don't fight over recreation opportunities for our kids because there's an abundance of them, and everybody has the quality of life that they expect out of a city. That includes the doctors that we would attract if we were a vibrant city, and the teachers our schools would be taken care of, and we would have less reliance on vehicles and be a little bit more progressive in that way.
Thanks for making some time for us this morning, Corey. Just tell me a little bit about who you are and why you're running for council.
My name's Corey Ramsey, and I'm an incumbent city councilor. I'm seeking a second term on Prince George City Council. I grew up in the Lower Mainland and moved here when I was in my teens. I had the opportunity to finish university and really develop my career. I love this community. I love what it represents, and I really want to champion it and promote Prince George as a place to live in BC and in Canada through my second term.
I feel like as your time over council, you've come to know the issues well in this city. If you were to pick one of the issues you hope to solve if you're a successful candidate this next term, what would it be?
I think we have a lot of complex social issues in our community right now that are really all interrelated, talking about community safety, policing, our downtown homeless issues, the issues that are impacting businesses. So it's not just necessarily one issue, it's a multifaceted issue that I really want to make progress on. I don't know that it's something that you can solve in just one term. I think it's something that you have to have strategies for over the long term and continuously pivot to make sure that you're adapting as you need to.
Like you said, you've lived in the city here for a fair while, coming from the Lower Mainland, but what do you see as the future vision for Prince George? Where do you see the city headed?
You know, my vision for Prince George, I want to see us grow. I think that we have the capacity to get to a population of 100,000, and I love this community. I know it has such a great foundation, it has great infrastructure, great amenities, and the people are amazing. And I want, you know, as we look at the growth of our community, I think our population increasing is just inevitable. So I want us to focus on smart growth for the future. I want us to have those long-term strategies and set those visions together with the community, so that we can all get there together. It's not just one councillor, one mayor, or one even council altogether leading the city. It's community members stepping up to provide their input so that we can all get there to where we want to go together. So that's my vision for the future, is, you know, leaning in together, deciding what we want and really going for it.
First of all, we'll start. Tell me a little bit about who you are and why you're running for council.
My name is Susan Scott, and I am a passionate, lifelong volunteer. I have been peripherally involved, I think, with politics my entire life. Although I do not consider myself a politician, I believe, as I did in 2014, that my city is on the brink of so much more, and I want to roll up my sleeves and be a part of it.
If mayor and council were to successfully address one issue right now, what would it be?
I would have to say it would be the chronically unhoused. We need to do more to assist all of those people who are our friends and neighbors and family members who require, you know, people talk about homelessness as if having a home is an answer, and I don't believe it is the entire answer, because there are issues of mental health, addiction, and so much more that we need to be able to come alongside people and assist. Housing unto itself is not a civic responsibility, but these are our people.
You talk about the people, part of likely a future vision for the city for yourself and others. What do you see as a future vision for Prince George?
I do believe that we are still in a growth spurt. We have never been a boom city in the many years that I'm aware of. But we are expanding our resource base. We are no longer focused as much, although forestry is still a key component of what the city of Prince George is about. There are many more opportunities that are right here today.
Thanks so much for making some time for us today, Rick. Just explain to me a little bit about who you are and why you're running for Prince George City Council.
Okay, I was raised in southwestern Ontario, the son of an immigrant family that came here in 1950, and from there on, when you're a landed immigrant and young, you learn to work early in your life. And from there, I went to high school in Strathroy, Ontario, and then subsequent to that, I joined the police department in London, did that for 6 years. And after that, I went to university and graduated from Simon Fraser with a specialty in history and knowledge. I've always had an interest in municipal governments, and I've had a long run-in with this particular government about noise.
If there was a top issue for you in Prince George, Rick, what would it be, and how would you work to solve it if you were a successful candidate for City Council?
I would change the noise bylaw. It's not enforced currently, because once you apply for a permit to go somewhere, you're also given a permit that excludes you from the noise bylaw.
And if you had a future vision for the city, Rick, what would it be, and how do you plan to get it there?
Well, I'd like to make Prince George more distinctive, so it is Prince George, because right now we look like every other city in North America. And quite frankly, there's much more to Prince George than just buildings that look like other buildings all over the place. My dream is, and I spoke with someone on that, is to have rotating restaurants somewhere in town, and you could see the entire city and the beauty of this area. That's what I'm hoping for, because it's proud to be in Prince George. And the government realizes that, because a lot of money comes out of the north. And so But really, when I was in Victoria with meetings, mostly the interest was directed towards Vancouver and Victoria.
Thanks for making some time for us today, Doug. Tell me a little bit about who you are and why you're putting your name in the hat for City Council.
My name is Doug Jeffrey. I've been the president of the Crescents Community Association for approximately 15 years. I've been on at least a dozen different volunteer groups in Prince George over the years. And my late father was the city treasurer and city manager of Prince George. So I grew up around the environment of city council and mayor and administration. I feel that he taught me a lot of lessons on how to work in city government and the time commitment that's involved. And I care deeply about the city.
Very important stuff. An interesting upbringing as well. If you were to pick one of the issues facing Prince George right now, Doug, what would it be and how would you work to solve it?
The number one issue for me would be how we spend our money, because that influences our quality of life for the citizens. I haven't agreed with how the money has been spent on some of our major projects recently. I would like to see that money spent in ways that affect quality of life, things such as improved bike lanes, things such as improved sidewalks, getting people out enjoying the outdoors. We live in a winter city. We want to be outside and enjoying it as much as possible, make it easy for people to do. And if we spend in ways that aren't supported by the citizens, taxes go up. I know mine has gone up every year the last, 5 or 6 years. So I think we've spent in ways that aren't appropriate. Perhaps we should have had a referendum on some of the spending that happened in the last 4 years. That's something that I would encourage, so the people of the city have some input. There's some Terracin gas or Fortis gas money that's coming forward. It's a large pot of money. I think that's an important issue that needs to be looked at. Lower our long-term debt, use the money that we save from lowering that long-term debt and put it towards other projects.
You said you've been born and raised in the city, been here for quite some time. Where do you see the future of Prince George and how do you plan to see it get there?
The work will never be done. That's something my late father said. So there's always going to be challenges and there's always going to be things that council is going to have to deal with, such as downtown. It's a very sad issue and it really needs to be handled with some direct intervention. I think the city could look dramatically more beautiful than it does. I get that we're a winter city, I'm a skier, I love getting out in the outdoors. There's snowmobile, there's all kinds of things we can do in the city. When the summertime comes, the landscaping and a lot of different properties around town is quite frankly dreadful, and we can do better as a community. We can be more attractive. Those sorts of things, although they're small issues, they do have an impact in how much we enjoy the outdoors. I'm a big outdoors guy, I love it. We have some beautiful parks that are looked after, but I'm talking about properties that definitely could be better looked after. And when you have someone at a mall, they're shooting up drugs in the doorway, whether it's Spruceland Mall, I've seen it there, I've seen it at Parkwood, and I've seen it in the downtown core. It appears to me like it's spreading. I mean, it's right in front of us, right? We can improve on that, we really can. But it's going to take some time and it's going to take some very direct intervention on the part of council, mayor, and other government agencies.
Thanks for making some time for us today, Colleen. First of all, our first question for you today, tell me a little bit about who you are and why you're running for City Council.
I'm a resident of Prince George. I came here in '98 as a student at UNBC, and I met my husband here. We have 2 kids here. I even moved my parents to Prince George because I love this place. It's awesome in so many ways that other places aren't. It's just perfect. I always loved just the fact that you can't tell who the millionaires are. Everybody wears jeans and fleece, no matter who you are. And it's a big enough city, but it still feels like a small community. And I just would like to see a lot more representation for the kinds of people who are parents and people that are not necessarily in the retirement age, So I thought I'd put my name forward and just hopefully inspire my daughter to be the change she wants to be.
It's a very important reason to run, Colleen. If you were to pick one of the issues facing Prince George, I know there's many to pick from, but one, which one would you pick and how would you work to solve that?
I think the biggest one for me is just looking at our infrastructure. We need to harden it because we're getting a lot more floods and fires and what have you. We need to be prepared for the emergencies that are going to come. So it actually means taking a step back and planning and listening to good advice. Expanding our green spaces, planting more trees, looking after our sewers and water pipes, even though those are not really sexy topics. They are something that really needs to be caught up with in Prince George. And I think if I were elected, that is what I would be focusing on, is the really boring stuff, making sure that stuff works.
Definitely important nonetheless. And like you said, your daughter, you're doing this for her partly, but your vision of the city, I'm assuming that also involves your daughter as well. Where do you see that going? Where do you see our city going, and how are you planning to get it there?
Well, there's many things, and unfortunately I don't know everything, and I think the most important thing for a council person is to be able to sit and listen, because perspective, I think, is everything. I would like for my kids to be able to go to school here and be able to find a place here if they want to stay here. And also if they want to move to a bigger center, they move to a bigger center. It's just, I don't think that being from the north should be a barrier to anything that you want to do. And so I think that this is a very exciting place. I came to Prince George because there was a lot of excitement up at UNBC because it was still a new university. It was very down to earth. It was very small. Coming from further north, that was kind of important. And I think that just having that energy is worth so much. Even if you don't have a lot of money, even if you don't have all the fanciest things, I think having wonderful people around you who will tell you the truth and work to make things better and will say, yes, I'll do it. That makes what makes the community so awesome.
Thank you very much for having me today. My name is Noor Salim, and the reason I'm running for council is because I've been in Prince George for a while now, and I'm into politics, I'm into community work, which I've been delving into ever since I've arrived in Prince George. I've been an active community member, and I recognize the troubles and the concerns of the city and the citizens of Prince George. I've also been around the world. I've lived in many different countries. I've lived in many different cities, been immersed directly into many different cultures. Therefore, I have seen many solutions to similar problems that we are facing here. And with the timing of this election, I've already settled into Prince George, and this is going to be my home long term. These reasons cross together for my candidacy for council in Prince George.
You talk about finding solutions to problems. Noor, if you were to pick one problem that's facing Prince George, what is it, and how would you work to solve it if you were elected councillor?
Now, one problem in Prince George that's very hard to pinpoint, what I would say is we should look more at a vision. What sort of vision do we have for Prince George? Now, Prince George at one point was, you could say, the second major city in BC, and ever since then, other cities in the interior and lower mainland have surpassed it by far. Now, the vision for Prince George, I would say, is, a future where the young population has more incentive for education, has more incentive for sport, has more incentive for community involvement, all of which is already world-class here. But it's not quite enough to fulfill the needs of our industries. It's not quite enough to fulfill our growth. It's, so we need to be able to raise people here and retain them here, and also be able to attract more talent and more investment. And that, of course, has to do also with the provincial and federal governments being able to respect the city of Prince George more than they are doing now, right? So, but it kind of goes circular in that we need to build ourselves in order for them to give us some respect, and it goes around like that in a cycle. So
I appreciate you making the time for us today. You've lived in Prince George, like you said, for a while now. What do you see as the future for the city? You said you've lived in other cities, so maybe how does that incorporate, what do you see for Prince George, and how do you plan to get it there?
Well, I'd say for that, since we don't have much time, I'll link you guys to my website, and on my website I speak in more detail about all of these issues and about potential points for consideration for council, and about things that I will personally do with or without the help of council, with or without the help of the city. I am out on the grounds, I am out with my two hands and with my one heart, working for the city of Prince George. And you can find out more, and you can come and join hands with me and bring your hearts together so we can see a brighter future for Prince George.
All right, thanks so much for making some time for us today, Paul. Tell me a little bit about who you are and why you've thrown your name in the ring for City Council.
Well, I was born here and raised here and have lived my life thus far mostly here, except for some time away for secondary and post-secondary education and some work. Why have I decided to run? Well, I am also for work, I am a renovation contractor, maintenance contractor. And I should mention that we have, my wife and I, my lovely wife and I have two small children, but I get paid to fix things. And the city is, some things have been really good, and other things have not really been very good and need to be fixed. And that's what I would like to help to do. I don't get paid to talk about fixing them, saying I would fix them, coming up with a proposal. I have to actually fix it. And that's what I would like to do with the problems that we have in Prince George.
If you were to pick, Paul, a couple or one issue that Prince George faces, which issue would you pick, and how would you solve that if you were a successful candidate?
Well, I really think the number one issue here has been the downtown homelessness. It's I would say over the last 4 years it's been the same or worse, so that's really on the incumbents, who none of them I notice are here. I don't know why not, but that's on them. And how would you fix it? Well, you need to have, I think, both a carrot and a stick approach. These people have probably had some really rough things happen in their life, and they shouldn't be treated roughly or cruelly. But at the same time, people have investment, they have things they've bought, and they also shouldn't be prevented from lawfully enjoying those things, lawfully pursuing their business dreams. And so I would say that when you're fixing something, you have to find out, you know what the problem is, why did that happen? Now, I'm sure we have the resources, we should know every one of these people's name, the name they go by, where they came from, and the most important question is, why are you homeless? If you're mentally ill, we have to get treatment for you. Maybe that means you have to go to perhaps a mental institution. The province of British Columbia would have to step up. Perhaps you have addiction issues. And we have to solve those. But we also cannot, the problems of the homeless cannot also really greatly affect other people who are trying to just enjoy their life here. So we have to deal with that, with this issue.
I know you've lived in the city for quite some time, Paul. Where does your future vision for Prince George go? Where do you see the city going, and how do you plan to get it there?
Well, if the incumbents are elected, I expect it will go the same as it's the last 4 years, but hopefully there would be a change. What I would like to see is a Prince George where you don't have people basically living on the streets, living in parks, And you have a place where tourists want to come, don't have a problem getting off the train and walking to their hotel and worried if they're going to survive that trip or not, and back. Prince George has been growing. There's been good things happening here. And we would like to have continued growth, continued job opportunities for our young people. But we have to deal with the blight that is both a problem for the city and for these homeless people.
All right, thanks so much for making time for us this morning, Garth. Tell me a little bit about who you are and why you're rerunning for City Council.
Oh, thanks. So I'm a four-term City Councilor. I've been with the City of Prince George on council since 2008. That was just after I finished my stint as the president of the Prince George Chamber of Commerce. We ran a really successful software business, and after that I've started teaching business and law and economics at the College of New Caledonia. Really exciting over the last 2 years in particular. I've spent the last 10 years working with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities as well. I got elected there for those 10 years and just recently finished a stint as the president of the organization. So I got to represent all 2,000 member municipalities across Canada. It happened during the pandemic, so there was a lot of extra work, but it was a real success.
And I know that over your time in council, there's a lot of issues facing the city in every department, it seems sometimes. But if you were to pick one of those issues, what would it be, and how would you work to solve that if you're a successful candidate once again?
Well, the top issues over these next 4 years all seem to be pointing to municipal, provincial, and federal partnerships. So we see housing, mental health and addictions, even healthcare, reconciliation, climate change. All of these are profoundly impacting municipalities and hitting our bottom line, hitting the costs that we were never built to design. But we need to solve it. These are our people, and they're being pummeled by serious issues. We're going to need strong municipal partnerships with the provincial government, with the federal government, and with First Nations governments as well.
And future vision for the city. Where do you see Prince George going, and how do you see it getting there?
Well, this is a really exciting part is over the past 25 years, we've seen a city that's got 2 post-secondary institutions, both a college and a university. We've also seen a really strong progression towards healthcare with not just training doctors here, but also having our own cancer clinic here. It's a city in flux. Forestry's been changing, and we really need to support the forest industry, but we've seen growth in mining and oil and gas. What's been very exciting over the past few years has been some of the clean tech that's come into the city. Later today we'll be at the hydrogen launch, for instance. And there's lots of opportunities, but you got to keep your eye on the ball. It's not just building the economy, which we're going to need to continue doing, but it's also looking at these emergent crises. Every council has new crises to deal with, but also huge new opportunities. So we've got to strike that fine balance, and we've got to work so hard with our provincial, our federal, and our First Nations partners.
Thanks so much for making time for us this morning, Carm. First of all, just tell me a little bit about yourself and why you're running for City Council.
I'm a small business owner downtown and father of 2 young children, and I'm running for City Council because I feel like the trust in the democratic situation is waning, and I'm here. I believe I speak for the silent majority, actually. From everyone that I've spoken to, clearly I've had a lot of support, and they're all standing behind me, so I'm looking to speak up for everybody. Ask the questions that no one's asking, actually. That's the points that I'm running on. In fact, I believe that everyone has the same questions.
I know downtown as well. If you're a business owner, you'll know there's lots of issues facing Prince George. If you could pick one of them, Carm, what would it be, and how would you address that if you're a successful candidate?
Definitely, it's all the same issue. The homelessness and the crime is now spreading to across the city. And as our local government, we have responsibility for safety and protection of our citizens, both the marginalized people. But we feel like, from what I've spoken to, that the business owners and the downtown community, the business owners, feel like they're not being held fairly and equitable in the discussion, in the sense that they were never asked about the homeless projects being downtown. But if you want a liquor or marijuana store, then you need to, apply for permits. They feel like they're not been spoken to. Once again, I speak for the silent majority.
I assume you have a future vision for the city as well, something a little different than what's going on right now. But what do you see as a future vision for Prince George? Where do you see it going, and how do you plan to see it get there?
My motto is community is empowerment. I stand for empowerment. Everyone I walk around me that gets any sort of interaction with me gets empowered. Groups, I'm going to empower families, the community. I'm going to empower the food systems, farmers. I want to bring it all, not the way it is, not a farmer's market, all of our local area coming together. I'm Carmgie Manhas, and I'm for community empowerment.
All right, thanks so much for making time for us this morning, Trudy. Just tell me first a little bit about who you are and why you're running for City Council.
Well, I'm a former businesswoman, and I am a mom of 6 and a concerned citizen. I really want to see our city thrive, and I think that we need to be more business friendly and more people friendly in our city.
And what are some of the big issues for you? You're running for council. There's obviously a lot of issues in Prince George, but if you could pick one of them, which one would you pick to address during your time in office if you're successful, and how?
Well, very obviously the downtown issue. I mean, that's the big thing that is on everyone's mind. But I think broader than that is just to become a city that has a can-do attitude towards development, towards economic development, towards housing and everything. I think that is what we need. We need to become a city of can-do.
I know you've been very involved as well with the city for a long time. What do you see as a future vision for Prince George, though, Trudy, and how do you see it getting there?
I think we have never really fully capitalized on being the northern capital of BC. And so because I'm pro-business and pro-development, I mean, we are a city surrounded by amazing, vast resources. I mean, we have the Golden Triangle that's just a few hours away. And I really think that Prince George can take a leadership role in developing those resources responsibly, and so that we can actually afford the things that we need to grow the things that we want and to build and maintain the things we want in our city.
Well, my name is Brian Skaken. I've been a resident of Prince George for 54 years, a long time, since I was 5 years old. I know the issues in Prince George. I've been around City Hall for quite some time. I know how to navigate through the bureaucracy, and I'm a hard-working elected official who's willing to speak their mind when it comes up to various issues, so it's worked quite well.
Just about the issues of this city. I know you've lived here for a long time, you mentioned that, but pick one of those issues. Which one would it be, and how do you plan to solve that in the upcoming 4 years?
Well, one of the issues that we've focused on in council in the past few years is crime and mental health and addictions, and I think it's so important. We've done work with the Union of BC Municipalities, the Prosecution Service, the RCMP. We wanted to streamline the court processes. There's been a number of things that we've done, because a lot of times the RCMP will arrest someone, they're on the street next day. It's got to be a little disheartening, and people in the community want the RCMP to do more, but what we're trying to do is give them the tools to help them do more, and it's been an incredibly difficult issue, but the city has been doing all they can. We need to form a bit better of a relationship with the RCMP on policing in certain areas of town. But, we have a ways to go.
And your future vision for the city, yeah, longtime resident. It's worth mentioning that once again. I think 50 plus years is a long time. Where do you see the city going, Brian, and how do you plan to get it there?
Well, definitely a safe and vibrant community for the residents and visitors. I think we need to do more when it comes to responsible development. We need to weigh the economic, social, and environmental aspects of all the developments that come before City Hall. But really, I think for me, I've always been a proud resident of Prince George, and I think a vision going forward is people that are proud of our community, they're happy where they live, and we can attract more people to move here. We can retain our seniors, but my vision is for a great community that's inclusive for all.